My libertarian drinking club friends will tell you that the trade imbalance with China, that's what I call them, is proves that we are a wealthier nation and we've outsourced the jobs that Americans just don't want to do anymore. JD Vance has pointed out rightly that by having almost a religious fervor for globalism, including in the Republican Party, it's been unfair to American workers in that, let's say, if Italians want to sell a Ducati motorcycle in the United States and we want to sell a Harley Davidson motorcycle in Italy, that should be done without having to pay for the privilege of driving one of those motorcycles. Same thing for beer or anything that we equally export to another country. But when other countries say, we want access to your market for free, but we're not going to give you the equivalent reciprocal access to our markets, that's not fair to our workers. It means they can't produce things that will be chosen by foreign consumers.
Yeah, and that's really been the big error. So I am with your libertarian drinking club. I feel like free trade is a human right, right? Like I really feel passionate about this, right? I really don't think it's any of the government's business whether I buy a Ducati motorcycle, Harley Davidson. But now when we get to the public policy component of this, it is clearly unfair. And it's hard to look people in the eye in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania and tell them that they have not been wronged by the policies of the last 30 and 40 years. Now, at the same time, Andrew, we can't overlook all the positive things that have come out of globalization. You know, we have some of the lowest prices for a lot of things in the world. You know, as someone who is Latin American by descent and goes there a lot of time, why do you think the malls are so packed Texas or over in Miami? Because they don't have access to the same goods that we do here at a fair price. The amount of consumer choice that we have and the low prices that we pay are something that we take for granted. I'm not sitting here and saying that the status quo is sustainable. I would tend to agree with Trump's analysis that that trade is fundamentally unfair and needs to be renegotiated. But starting an all-out trade war, especially with someone like Canada or Mexico, is probably not a wise move.
Look, I've always said, look, I will do my best to buy things made in the USA. And I'm crazy about it to a point. You know, I wear American-made shoes, American-made jeans. I drive an American-made truck. I always search made in the USA before I make a purchase. But if you go into a Walmart, you could buy a pair of shoes for about $7 or $8. I'm not going to tell someone who doesn't have a lot of money that they should walk around on barefoot on gravel because I want you to buy a pair of American-made shoes. But if they can't wear those shoes to a job, there's a problem, right? If our workers cannot access, if our companies cannot access markets and give their consumers access to our products, it's lopsided. And, the sort of establishment Republican Chamber of Commerce view of that cheap stuff by any means necessary. Look, why I call it the Libertarian Drinking Club, because if you're out of work in middle America, you don't give about what some coastal elite has to say about Adam Smith and the invisible hand, right? Or I read Atlas Shrugged, right? And I think if Donald Trump can deliver a fair, free, reciprocal trade environment where American workers are on an equal footing with foreign workers, if he can do that without actually hurting consumers in that process, I think that would be one of the most amazing things in my lifetime.
Yeah, but we have to be careful, right? I think you and I agree on the substance. I think most Americans would agree on the substance. I just told you, like, the biggest problem with the Libertarian Drinking Club, the Chamber of Commerce, the highest echelons of the Democratic and Republican Party have been to look these people in the face and be like, this is good for you. And it's like, no, it hasn't been good for them. And it's actually shameful that we've been saying that over and over again. It's a lie that we shouldn't believe. It's been really bad for a lot of people. It's been good for other people. But the problem is, sometimes, the fix is painful. And really, if middle America is suffering, if Trump was elected on a mandate to help bring down prices, we just got inflation under control. And it's very to deport everyone, start a trade war, and lower taxes at the same time. because that's all inflationary. So the Trump administration needs to be careful because they will expend all of their political capital on fighting a very devastating recession and lowering living standards for everyday Americans. And that will hurt the administration's ability to do things like cut the federal budget, which people want through Doge and whatnot. And that's my biggest fear, is that we understand the substance. Most Americans understand the substance. The election just showed us the substance. But you can't just go in, operating at an 11 expecting good results. All of this is difficult. Trade wars are a problem. Tariffs cause deadweight loss. They cause jobs. They cause inflation. And we know we need a change, but how that actually is going to happen remains unseen.